Currently in my editor, which is IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate Edition, I have a running version of a Spring Boot application. It is a very simple one. I have this Spring Boot application class and a DemoController just to provide a response, and it is running properly. Now I'm going to demonstrate one important feature related to addition of dependency, and this particular feature is present in the Ultimate Edition only, which is edit starters. In the pom.xml, if you go and if it is the Ultimate Edition, we can see this particular Spring Boot icon, and here we have edit starters. Now currently I have this to starter. Now here in the pom.xml, we can add the dependencies in the traditional way. We can look out for the Maven dependencies from the internet, from Maven Central, and we can add them over here. Or we can use this one. What it does, if I click on edit starters, I can search the dependency that I am looking for. Suppose I want to add the support for JPA and the H2 in-memory database. If I type over here JPA and select this Spring Data JPA is added. I want to add H2 database also. I'm typing H2, selecting this one. So now this three would be the dependencies that I would be having. Clicking on OK. If you notice over here, if I scroll down, I have this JPA added here as well as the H2. So this is one nice feature where I don't need to search for the dependency. Staying within the ID, I get the dependency in my pom.xml, and at the bottom you can see the dependencies are right now being resolved by the ID. I will wait for a while, and then I will add the associated code for this. What I'm going to do over here, I'm going to add a model and a repository, and then just run this application to fetch some data from this H2 database. Now for model, I'm going to create one particular class, maybe customer, Java class, naming it customer. So here I have added the code related to this customer model. I have entity annotation, table annotation, and then I have the ID field, which is integer, and here the generation type is identity. So this would have auto incremented value. Then following up first name and last name, two simple fields. Now this model is complete. I want to go ahead with the repository. New Java class, customer repository, pressing enter. Now here, this particular repository, this is basically an interface. It is extending CRUD repository, the model and its key type. And I have one defined method, find customer by ID, which is taking the ID, the integer value. Next, I'll add the controller, or rather I would update the existing controller I have with the required method. First thing, I'm going to add the repository over here, the repository that we created right now, this customer repository. Next, I'm going to add certain methods. I have added some other methods also, like add customer, get customer, find customer by ID. Now, the basic coding part, model creation, repository creation, controller part, we are done. Now I need to provide the properties for H2 database in my application properties file. Now here I have added certain properties like JPA show SQL true, the log level of Hibernate, the Spring JPA Hibernate DDL auto as update, so that the table gets created. The table or schema creation is handled by Hibernate. And here I am creating a profile. So application property has the basic details, but as I am going to use H2 and later on few other databases like MySQL or Postgres, I want to have a separate file for H2 or separate file for MySQL. And based on my requirement, I'll change the profile. Right now I'm going to use H2. So I'm going to create another file, application-h2.properties. There I will add H2 database related properties. New file, application-h2.properties. So in this application H2 properties, we have added the data source related details. The URL, I'm going to use in-memory database. Ignore the second line. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, these are all standard. I'm enabling the console here. Console path also I'm mentioning, and this is the Hibernate dialect. Now, one thing I'm going to do over here, when I run this application, I'm going to insert some data into H2. For that, I'm going to create a directory over here, db, and here I'm going to create one file, data.sql. Inside data.sql, I have 4 insert statements. These are inserting first name and last name values into the customer table. Now, if you recall, for customer, I already have the model class created, and I have this Hibernate DDL auto as update. So schema creation would be done by Hibernate itself. For the dummy data insertion, I have created this file data.sql, but I need to mention somewhere so that this data.sql script gets triggered. For that, I can go to this H2 properties and I can add this line over here, spring.sql init data location class path db data.sql. So once the table is created, this script would be triggered and 4 records, whichever I have added in data.sql, those would be inserted into the H2 database. Another small modification I can do, instead of adding this particular feature over here, I can add it to the h2.properties file. Let me cut this, go here, and logically I can have it over here. As the data initialization process could vary from database to database, so I'm keeping this into the database specific file. Similarly, I can bring this part also under here. So schema creation, data insertion, everything is inside this database specific properties file. Let me go back here, run this application. I can see the Spring Boot application is started now. We can just go to browser and hit the default URL localhost :8080 just to see whether the response is coming. So the dependencies that I have added for H2 and JPA, whether those are functional or not, I need to check the console of the H2 application. Now, if I go to IntelliJ IDEA, this is the URL that I have mentioned for this H2 console. So in browser, same URL localhost :8080. Let me add this /h2 console and press enter. Here username, if I check again in the settings that I have provided, username is SA, password is blank. Here the JDBC URL I need to correct. It is some old value that is given over here. If I go here, this should be my URL. Copying this, pasting over here, clicking on connect. On the left hand side, I can see I have the customer table already available. If I expand this, I have the columns. If I just click on this select start from customer appears over here, click on run. Now, these are the 4 records which were there in my data.sql. These are populated now. So overall what we have done, we have mainly focused on this particular feature, like adding the edit starter using this IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate Edition. From there, we have added the dependencies successfully. So after adding the dependencies, what we did a small modification and added some code like repository, model, data script, and ran an initial version just to check that yes, after adding the dependencies also, the features and functionalities are working as expected at a very high level.